Hello there everybody, and welcome to another one of these unusual videos around here. Anthony joining you once again, and the footage you're seeing right now is the tail end of Serious Competition episode 15. I'm not sure what the episode name is at the time I'm recording this, but I'll have a link in the description to that video, and I recommend you go watch that first so that way you can get some context on where our opinions are coming from in this video. And what this video is me and John discussing the three cards, or the three beta cards from World Strike that we were using in this video. Now, if you don't know what World Strike is, it is the first custom set from the group Bayformers for the Transformers TCG. I've talked a bit before on the channel about how various groups are creating custom cards for Transformers to keep it alive. And World Strike is just the latest that I found out about. Again, if there's any others you want me to look into, leave a comment down below and I will look into them. But how World Strike and Bayformers are doing their testing for these is it's an open beta. So they send out beta versions of the cards, people print them off, and then people get to test with them. Now, the three I tested in this video, as I mentioned in this episode, in the full video, were Last Line of Defense, a stratagem for Omega Supreme Autobot Defense Base, Turnabout Snare, which is a new secret action, and then Autobot Countdown Aerospace Engineer. So I have all the cards up on screen so you can read what they do. But this was the first of, I think, 4 matches that me and John decided to do to test these cards. We did 3 off camera. This is the only one that was on camera, and this is the first. I'll talk a bit more about those off-camera matches after we have our discussion about the on-camera match. So, yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. Again, if you haven't watched this episode already, do that because it's going to provide a lot of context as to where we're coming from on these cards. So, I'm just going to shut up now, so hopefully you enjoy me and John's analysis of these cards after, or at least our experiences with them after this on-camera match. So, I will see you in a bit. You don't even have
I'm not going to flip.
The game's over.
This was, this was a game, I'm going to safely say. This strategy right here, person who made this, annoying as You did your job.
But these 3 cards,
you didn't do your job in annoying people. It's just you did your job in making this viable. I hate it.
Because previously Omega Supreme was really kind of unplayable just because there was really nothing to help him specifically. Last Line of Defense, Turnabout Snare, and since you're only playing a 2-wide team, you're kind of able to get away with untapping pretty frequently.
It's just that now you can't...
Actually, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
It's just the thing now is that you can't attack into this guy even if he's untapped.
Which essentially means you have
one of the main reasons why that deck is so annoying, because you have this big beefy boy, and he's like, no, you don't get to hit my younger brother. I'll f***ing kick your
Right, because you just keep hitting into Omega Supreme. Last Line of Defense keeps triggering.
And Kickback Countdown keeps triggering.
And keep in mind, the effect about untapping triggers even if Omega Supreme is not on the battlefield, since it specifically doesn't specifically reference him.
And Countdown keeps triggering because you're attacking Omega Supreme, and if you keep hitting him with anything more than 1 damage, you're gonna lose.
So the key is to direct damage him, which actually... I'm gonna camera.
I need to see this.
It's
2 more attack damage. So in other words, you gotta outburn him,
which actually
sucks.
Off camera, I think we're gonna test it with Planes because Planes is a pretty heavy burn deck.
You are gonna test him with Planes.
Well, Planes is a pretty heavy burn deck, so I'll have to test him against that.
So.
But yeah, if you have the ability to do a ton of direct damage and just play around Countdown, I think that's how you beat the deck.
How you would beat him is you need to outburn him because Countdown is the most annoying part of it.
Right, and I think what makes this good is because you're only playing a 2-wide team, so you're not going to have the damage capability of something like Priming Crew. So you have Last Line of Defense and Countdown in order to make up for that while being able to keep Prime alive, or Omega Supreme alive, thanks to Countdown. So I think that's why this is a good deck. Again, I do want to do a couple more tests with this, and then I'll send feedback. So this was my very early impressions. Turnabout Snare didn't take a whole lot of effect because I only got to play it once, so I still have no opinions on that. Countdown as a tool to help keep Prime alive, or not Prime, Omega Supreme alive. Once he goes down, you basically have a 4-star powerhouse. He only has 1 armor slot, but he essentially can.
Because he's basically the finisher. Because your opponent's probably too tired at this point, too weak at that point after taking down Omega Supreme do anything, and suddenly now you just have 7 attack, swing, and for game.
Exactly. So that's why why Countdown is good. Last line of defense, again, it gives Extra Supreme a little bit of extra buff, keeps him alive a little
Extra
longer.
Supreme? Extra Supreme.
Gives Omega Supreme. Did I just say that? Oh my god.
You said Extra Supreme. It's much more. So many peppers. So many vegetables on that pizza.
But yeah, and also Omega Supreme having Brave is just nuts.
It's nuts because now you can't actually deal with the main reason half of the burn damage is coming your way, which is Countdown.
Which I'm going to do a bit more testing. We're going to do a bit more testing.
Not to mention you have no reason to flip him into bot mode, so he's marksman proof.
Yes, so you can't do that to him either. So I think Brave is might be the biggest issue of this. So I'm actually going to... Okay, so the next 2 tests I want to do... actually...
The next 2 tests you will be doing.
Because I want to test this against Plains, and then I want to test this exact same deck, but, actually this exact same deck against Plains, but then test Omega Supreme with last line of defense, with like actually, no, wait, I can't do that, because, wait, so he's 19, 20, I couldn't use Warpath because he's...
Well, I mean, it doesn't matter what you say here, because I'm fairly certain future Anthony's going to be cutting this bit out anyways, he usually does.
Yeah, because I was thinking about testing him with Warpath, but that would be 26 stars, and that wouldn't be legal.
That wouldn't be legal. I mean, that's just me being aggravated at the fact that that's me being aggravated at the fact that I basically got trick-starred. But actually, no, not Trickstar. Trickstars burn you for game after making you draw your entire deck just on turn 1. So I got reactored.
Yes.
I got reactored.
So again, I think the issue right now is the Brave on Omega Supreme. If he didn't have that, you'd be able to at least get into Countdown while he's tapped.
Unless you're playing a burn deck, in which case you'd just be able to snipe him anyways.
Exactly.
Not with marksmanship, but you'd be able to snipe him with like something like 2 one shall stand, one shall fall.
Well, you could actually hit him with one shall stand, one shall fall.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. You could hit him with 2 one shall stand, one shall falls, and suddenly he's gone.
Yes, but how often? But I was able to get rid of Ransack before you got a chance to do it, and Prime and RC are not necessarily the best targets for that.
It's just I didn't think about that, even though Prime has 14 health and he's a pretty chunky boy.
Yeah, so Prime again is a decent target, but again, I think the issue here is last line of defense. If it didn't have the Brave on Omega Supreme, you could have some more opportunities to hit the Countdown. But if you aren't playing burn cards, then you basically have no way to hit Countdown until he comes out. But by that point, like John said, you're too weak.
Not to mention the person playing Omega Supreme has no f***ing reason to flip him into bot mode, so you can't marksman him.
Exactly. So again, I've said this 5 times. The Brave on last line of defense is, I think, what we've already identified as potentially the issue here. If that wasn't there, that could be decent. And in fact, we off camera, we might test it without him having Brave.
Okay, I might be into that.
Okay, so I'm actually might upload this part as a separate segment, just kind of as a discussion. So yeah, that's kind of my opinions
analyzing
these cards. Again, Turnabout Snare.
That's decent against most characters, I think, because most characters tend to have high attack, low defense.
Where I think this is going to excel is as a late game counter to Perceptor or Nemesis trying to swing in for game, because they're going to be having so much attack that you just do this and you'll be able to counter that, and you'll be able to it'll go back to their regular stats. You'll be able to counter punch them. So
like I said, it's good against wait, that says until the end of battle, so that's when they swing.
So it's not until the end of the turn, but again against
so that's good for surviving one thing against most characters except for Demolisher, but that's one character.
Yes, so for the Bayformers, for any set, any rule set that allows for Bayformers cards, if off heavy orange is the meta, this is going to be, or if like high powered offensive characters are the king, this is going to be huge. Or like against Dinobots, this is going to be huge.
I'm thinking Bayformers are just like. From these few cards, plus these, from these 3 cards and what you just played, this is me analyzing 3 of these cards. I don't know if there's like going to be more of that.
There's going to be more. Remember,
if they're all going to be following the same pattern, but these 3 cards are very anti-high offense. They're very much a slow down, slowly kill your opponent over time.
Which I think is what Omega Supreme wants to do. And keep in mind,
that's really his game plan because of how much he switches damage around.
And because he has 7 attack, you can kind of get away without. And again, with his 7 attack, you can kind of get away with not playing oranges.
Exactly. With 7 attack, that's pretty beefy attack stat still.
And again, it's the largest. It's the second largest on pretty much. Actually, no, it's like the third largest on any character. But in terms of these 3 cards, remember these 3 were marked as potentially able to be broken, which is kind of like what I was trying to pay attention to, like where was the brokenness coming from? Turnabout Snare, I have to do more testing on that one. Countdown, Countdown is not the problem here.
Yeah, he's the main reason the deck functions, but he's not the problem. I think if it's the combination of Omega Supreme plus Countdown, this alone I think is fine. It's the Brave plus these 2, plus it's the Countdown plus Brave combo that's really
I don't think
made the deck so painful to play against.
Yeah, the 2 armor slots is not the issue because, as you saw, I was only able to get that off a couple of times.
Yeah, and
what the issue is the Brave. It doesn't do anything against Pierce. There's that. The issue is the Brave, so we'll test that off camera. Again, this section is probably going to be in its own separate video, and it actually will be most likely.
Probably.
Okay, Anthony back here. After the fact now, I actually just finished testing these cards, and I wanted to kind of give my quick final opinions on them. So starting with Turnabout Snare now, I pretty much am going to be reiterating the feedback I sent to the Bayformers group. So yeah, I already know what I'm going to say. So Turnabout Snare, we did, like I mentioned, we had to do a weird ruling on it where essentially stat bonuses from actions are part of the stat swap, but bonuses from upgrades are not. So in that context, it still is a fairly decent card, because on average, from what I tested, you're stopping about 3 or 4 attack, which is significant enough to make a difference. So, and the fact that it has a blue and a black icon makes it at least a decent flip option as well. So it helps on offense and it helps on defense. So overall, it's a fairly decent card for defensive decks. So that one is honestly fairly decent. Countdown. Now, we talked about this at the end where Countdown is not the problem. It most certainly is not, because we did test last line of defense without Brave, and I'll talk a bit more about that. But in those games, Countdown was still impactful, but he was not causing any sort of problems, and it was a bit easier to kill him, but it wasn't so easy that he had no impact. And Omega Supreme could very much win on his own after Countdown went down, as long as Countdown's effect triggered a couple of times, which it usually did. So Countdown is not the issue, and again, having him as a big finisher move once Omega Supreme gets KO'd, thanks to his bot mode, Countdown's bot mode skill effectively giving him 7 attack, that is huge, and it just allows you to clean up fairly easily. As for last line of defense, I am going to read to you the exact feedback I sent to Bayformers, just because I feel like I reiterated all my thoughts here. Last line definitely helps to make Omega Supreme good. The double armor slots in combination with a blue heavy deck make him pretty hard to kill, but not unkillable, and the second effect to scrap a card and deal a damage across your opponent's board helps him to keep up in the damage race. However, what makes this stratagem broken, and I marked it as broken in the little Google thing that they had, is that it gives Omega Supreme Brave. From my testing against an Optimus Prime Battlefield Legend deck, a Windsweeper Plane deck, and a Dinobot deck, I found that being forced to attack Omega Supreme on every attack leads to a couple of things. First, his double armor slots were fairly easy to fill with the deck I used, even with good armor removal in my opponent's decks, because I knew Countdown couldn't be hit since Omega had Brave, so I could just dump all my armors onto Omega. And because of that, he was consistently flipping 5 to 7 cards per defense on average, meaning very little damage was getting through, even against a heavy orange deck like Dinobots. And when it did get through, there were 2 outcomes. Either you took 1 damage and barely dented him, or he took 2, and your opponent got pinged for 1 thanks to Countdown's alt mode effect. And because he was not only taking very little damage, but effectively healing when he did take more than 1 damage thanks to Countdown's alt mode skill, it makes it take even longer to kill Omega Supreme. But once your opponent does kill him, they're almost always too exhausted on resources and too damaged to get an attack, a chance to kill Countdown. And thanks to his bot mode skill that effectively gives him 7 attack from Omega Supreme being in bot mode in the KO area, he's an extremely powerful finisher that's able to survive a hit or 2 as long as he has an armor, which he usually does at that point. And he manages to clean up for the win. I tried using cards that do direct damage to Countdown, as well as matching Omega Supreme up against a Windsweeper deck, but in the end, I was never able to kill Countdown while Omega Supreme was alive. On top of that, playing against the Omega Supreme deck with Last Line and Countdown just wasn't fun. It took forever to finish even one game, and the Omega Supreme deck always won, so the non-Omega player is sitting there just like, what was the point spending this much time for just a loss in which I barely got to do anything? However, I did do a couple of extra tests with the Omega Supreme deck with Last Line and Countdown, but with one key change. I made it so Last Line of Defense did not give Omega Supreme Brave. And what I found is, like I said earlier, while Countdown is slightly easier to kill since you can hit him while both characters are tapped, it's not too easy, meaning Countdown still stays around for a decent amount of time. But even if he does go down, Omega Supreme can still win... excuse me there, I lost my place. Can still win the game by himself thanks to Last Line's damage effect and having 2 armor slots from Last Line. And while Omega Supreme can still win on his own, it was a much closer set of games than the games where Brave was active, and each deck in these situations managed to win. So from my testing experience, I'd say Last Line is perfect where it is, except for giving Omega Supreme Brave, and if it were up to me, I'd rewrite the card so it didn't give Omega Supreme Brave. That's pretty much all my thoughts on that card. So that's my opinions on the 3 cards that we tested here. I'm honestly, like, really excited to see what happens to these, because, like, getting to have input on the future of the game is always really fun. So these cards were fun to test with. The other cards are looking interesting, and hopefully over the next few weeks we see some more interesting stuff out of World Strike, and then hopefully we get the official versions that have been revised and balanced, hopefully by some point either in early or mid-December, if I had to take a wild guess. So that will do it for my opinions here. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to me discuss these cards from a design standpoint to an extent. And yeah, that will do it for this video. Peace out, y'all.